In this video, I'm going to give you a guide on how to beat all of the new bosses for Operation Nightmare in the Call of Duty Haunting event. There are 5 bosses in total. We got the Butcher, we got the Swamp Creature, we got the Pharaoh, the UFO, and the Ghost Train. Now, you can complete as many or as little of these boss fights per game as you want, as they continuously reset after a few minutes of a team completing them. So let's break down all of them by starting off with the coolest one, which is the Butcher from Diablo. Now, I would highly recommend you do this all in DMZ rather than Warzone, as you have way more time in DMZ, you have less players, but I highly recommend you make a 3-man team when attempting these bosses, as doing these solo is going to be pretty difficult. The overview map, the Butcher spawn, will be this T logo, and you can find it in Zaya Observatory, Al Mazrah City, the Cemetery, or Hydroelectric. Once you're near, you'll see a prompt on your screen saying an ominous presence is nearby, and you'll see this big altar. There will be a ton of AI soldiers patrolling it to start with, so once you've taken all of those out, make your way up to any of the pillars, and there'll be a prompt to start a ritual. What will happen here is that actual zombies will start spawning around that you're going to need to kill whilst also standing near one of these pillars until the ritual progress has completely filled. And when it has, you'll see that a line will be on the floor connecting from the pillar you activated to the one parallel to it, and you need to do this process and activate every single one of the 6 pillars in this ritual. Now, what makes this particularly difficult is that other real players can watch over this ritual area and take you down at any point. So be sure to keep your wits about you whilst you're trying to complete all of these rituals. But once you've completed all 6, you'll see a nightmare portal will have opened where you can enter it, taking you into hell, where you're going to be up against the Butcher boss fight. Now, this thing is easily the most difficult boss out of all 5. He is a massive bullet sponge, so I highly recommend that you take in an assault rifle as well as a shotgun like the KV broadside with a ton of ammo, because you'll be able to put a bunch of damage into him extremely quickly, as well as taking out all of the nearby zombies. The most common attack is that at all times he will target one of the players in this room, and he will be sprinting towards them at all times. He also has a slam attack where if he's fairly close to you, he will do a slam attack that will drop you to 1 HP if you don't have an armor plate carrier. So it is highly recommended to be fully looted up before you go into the actual boss fight itself. There's also the zombies roaming around, which will try and attack you if you're near, but they'll also be throwing a lot of items at you if you're at a distance from them, so that over time can do quite a bit of damage. And also, most of this area is lit on fire, so parts of the map are actually dangerous to be traversing by foot. So you're going to be running around the outskirts of the map of this section quite a lot, trying to just put as much damage into him as possible. But you definitely want to have a 3-man that are all focused on doing as much damage as humanly possible at all times to try and get this done as quickly as possible. The one downside to this boss fight is even though you've been teleported to a brand new room, that portal is still open in Al Mazrah, so any other players can enter via the portal into this room and take you and your team down at any point in time. So you need to be careful and keep your wits about you just in case that happens. Some players might want to be friendly and just try and take down the Butcher with you, but not everyone will be that way, so please be careful. The zombies will drop ammo for your assault rifle, so don't worry too much about running out of ammo if you have an AR, but once you've taken it out, you'll be able to pick up a bunch of different kill streaks along with a scavenger backpack and the Butcher's cleaver item, which is worth $66,600. From this point, you'll see a prompt that says hell is heating up, escape or die, and at this point you're going to want to leave via the portal that you came in, and you'll redeploy from the top of Al Mazrah, and then if you want to, you can go to the buy and sell the Butcher's cleaver for $66,000 if you want to. But let's now move on to the Swamp Creature. The Swamp Creature looks like this on the minimap and will always be in Mawazar marshlands. If it's not there, that means the team has previously just taken it down, and you're going to want to wait till you see a screen prompt that says boss respawn, the marsh is once again haunted. Once you get into the middle of this area, there will be a prompt for you to offer the golden tiara, and outside and around the marshlands are these weird orange spores that act as supply boxes, and you're going to want to loot them until you eventually find a golden tiara inside one of them. Once you have, go back to that yellow glowing circle and place a tiara where you'll see a prompt that threat detected swamp creatures have emerged, and they will start coming out from the swamp in front of you, around you, and behind you. These are very fast running creatures that are slight bullet sponges, but in a team of 3, you'll be able to take them out really quickly, and there is 3 of them in total. Once you've taken them all out, you'll get a prompt that says swamp creatures killed, they sink to a watery grave. And the last creature is going to drop a prized golden tiara worth $100,000, along with a tempered plate carrier, a bunch of souls, as well as a scavenger backpack. And if you want to go ahead and sell that prized golden tiara for $100,000, then you absolutely can. Now, in the unlikely event that someone random in the game has picked up the tiara that you need to start the swamp monster boss fight and it isn't appearing from any of these spores, what you can do is if you run around in the swamp water, the swamp monsters will occasionally appear as a bit of a jump scare, and you can start to put some bullets into them, and eventually you can aggro them to then bring them onto shore and then kill them that way, and you still complete the boss fight for this even without putting down the tiara. Let's now move on to the boss, which I think is the hardest, and this is the Pharaoh, which can be found in the top left of the map in Oasis. Now, as soon as you even get close to this area, you get a slight jump scare from the Pharaoh's face itself, but once you enter the Oasis, you'll see that this has now been completely revamped to be a like Egyptian tomb, which is incredible. And there will be quite a few AI which will have these sort of possessed eyes on them. Some of them will be yellow and some of them will be a purpley pink, and those are the important ones to take notice of, because when you kill those, they're going to drop an item called a cursed skull, and you're going to need to get 10 of these in total. Now, when you make your way through the Oasis, you'll eventually find yourself at the Pharaoh's tomb, and you'll have to place 5 cursed skulls on the front of the tomb and at the back of the tomb in order to spawn the Pharaoh boss. Once you've placed all the skulls, you get this incredible animation of the Pharaoh spawning in, and this thing is the strongest boss out of all of them. You don't have a health counter, but he has an incredible amount of health. It also has a really dangerous attack move where if it gets too close to a player, he will literally perform his own execution on you. It's incredibly violent and it will literally down you. You have no control over this, and whilst he's doing this, he will be invincible to the other players that are trying to take him down. Now, his weak spot seems to be his head, where if you put enough damage into his head will start glowing a lot like the AIs that are patrolling and taking care of this area, and then you'll finally be able to take him down, where he will drop 3-plate comms vest as well as an armor box and some equipment. But for us, he didn't seem to drop any actual valuable item, which was pretty weird. The next boss we'll be guiding you through is the UFO, which can always be found on the coastline at Sour Village. Now, this area is incredible because it used to be fully underwater, but the UFO has created this new divot area where when you go up here, you're going to see this massive blue ball in the sky that's going to be shooting down lightning bolts. And what you need to do is put a ton of damage into this blue floating ball until it explodes, and it's going to reveal 3 small, what they call anomalies, which are going to be flying around. They're going to be really hard to shoot, and they're also going to be shooting at you with actual ray gun bullets with ray gun sounds. These blue balls have a life of their own just floating around, and what you're going to need to do is just take out all 3 of them. Once you've done that, an actual UFO is going to spawn and it's going to be flying around, and you're going to need to take it out. Now, funny fact, if any of you have played Infinite Warfare Zombies, this UFO is in the first ever Zombies map, Spaceland, so that's so cool seeing it here again. Now, this thing will target one of the 3 players in your team and will be shooting these lasers at them, but it can also abduct you and have you float up in the air, so just put a load of damage into it. Once you've taken it out, this artifact is going to float out of it, out of the sky, and land somewhere near this area where you're going to need to pick it up. But what's also funny is it drops this very valuable item called Ultra Secreto, which is worth $100,000, but it is literally the fake Mexican alien that went viral earlier this year that the government supposedly found, which is just absolutely crazy to see in Call of Duty. So what you want to do is pick up the artifact, and it's going to work a little bit like the ball from Uplink or the summoning key from Black Ops 3 Zombies, where one player is going to need to carry it, and you're going to need to head towards the big capsized boat here. You're going to need to take a rappel that's going to take you up to the higher levels of it. Then you're going to have to go down and take a left and then walk down a corridor that will take you up a ladder, which will take you onto the actual main bit of the boat itself, where there's going to be a blue portal spawned where you're going to need to interact with to drop the artifact off in the portal. Once you've deposited it, that will be it. The UFO artifact will have returned and will spit out a load of goodies. It'll give you about 35,000 in cash. There's a self-res, there's a comms vest, there's a stealth vest, as well as a self-revive, and a tempered plate carrier. So for getting all 3 of the vests, this is a pretty good one. And the last and final boss is going to be the ghost train, which is just going to be on the train tracks. It's just going to be roaming around the map. Now, this train has been redesigned ever so slightly from the train that you're used to, because you can only enter this train from the very back carriages, and making your way through from the back to the front, there is a ton of barbed wire, fire, as well as claymores, tripwires that are going to be there. So you have to be very slow and careful about making your way from the very back of the train to the front. There's going to be decoys that are going to pop up as well. So there's just a lot of things to take note of. You probably might go down at least once, so definitely bring a team in for this. There is going to be a load of chests before you get to the very front, which might have a certain key in it called a heat resistant key, which will open some chests at the very front of the train. But you don't need to worry about that necessarily. Once you make your way to the very front carriage, you're going to notice all of these supply crates, which again, you're going to need that key that I just mentioned. Right at the front, there's going to be a safe that you can loot, which is going to have around about $20,000 in it and a kill streak. Right in front of it is going to be a statue of Lilith from Diablo, who's going to have an item called Heart of the Train, which is worth $6,660. And once you've picked that up, you'll now see that you've completed this, and at this point you might have got all the bosses done, where you'll see a pop-up of you unlocking the Bloody Mess blueprint for completing the Haunting Mastery challenges, and there'll also be a portal that you can enter which will let you redeploy above Al Mazrah and above the actual ghost train itself. I'd love to know what your favorite boss fight out of all of them was in the comments below, and what your thoughts are on the Haunting event itself. If this video was useful, leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you next time.